How you doing today, folks? Now, I've been going through a little bit of a downer spell lately, so I want to focus on things that make me happy. So here are 10 knives, count it, 10 knives that make me happy that are all under $500. Now, $500 for a lot of people, right, is a really high milestone. It's something you could definitely work towards, but maybe you don't quite have it just yet. For those people, I strongly encourage you to not buy an M-Tech, to not buy some cheap little piece. I strongly encourage you to save up. It is definitely worth it. And also, once you get to that $500 bracket, it's pretty easy to trade that $500 knife for another one and another one and another one and so on and so forth. That's how I got there. And now I have tons and tons and tons and tons of knives because the addiction is real. But anyways, before we actually get started, right, I got a few honorable mentions. Already can't talk. Honorable mentions. First off, we have the Berg Blades Golem. I actually do really like this knife a lot. It definitely does make me happy, and it definitely does make me happy. However, I've not had it quite long enough. I've had this knife for about maybe 4 months, and some of these I've had it for years, and they've just stood the test of time. So I cannot include that one. We also have the Concept made, Coke Tools designed Corvette XL. I'm loving this knife right now. I've had it for 6 days maybe, so it's not included in this. Also, my Benchmade full custom shop, full size Crooked River and S90V. I love this knife. I use it all the freaking time. However, compared to the other ones, I don't think it's as good. However, it's definitely a fantastic knife, and I love this knife. Now, let's get started. And the very first one is actually one of my favorite knives to use. But unfortunately, that joy factor for me isn't really there. But this is going to piss a lot of people off right off the get-go. To be clear, if you are included in this list at all, if your knife is here, the knife that you love is in this list at all, I've handled thousands and thousands of knives over the years. Everything here, for me anyways, is the cream of the crop. So if it's here at all, it's fantastic. But the first one is the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. I freaking love this knife. This is one of my favorite users by far, by a very, very large margin. However, it does not bring me the joy it once did, but it is a fantastic knife. I love this knife. I will never, ever go without a Yojimbo 2. I said that in my actual review. I always, always, always have one of these knives. One of these knives will always stay in the collection, but that's number 10. Number 9 is actually a pretty hard one for me because I love this knife. And honestly, when I'm feeling it, it brings me a lot of joy. This is the very crazy looking prehistoric Maxace Knives Sandstorm. This is a big ass blade of, I believe it's K110. Yes, K110. This video is not rehearsed or scripted at all, but this thing fits my fat hands. It has fantastic action. That was bad. That's my fault though. Oh, never mind. There we go. It has fantastic action, great fit and finish. This knife, when I'm feeling something kind of big and this prehistoric looking, is one of my absolute favorites. It's not my go-to though, so it just has to be lower on the list, but I love this knife. I think I paid like $80 for this. So, under $500, $80 knife included. Says a lot. This is a fantastic knife. You can find this in full titanium for a bit more if you want to. I've had that knife, but this G10, in particular, this JG10, for me, this is my happy point by a freaking mile. I love this damn knife. Fail. There we go. All right. Now, next up is a full custom from Walter Wells. I'm actually not sure on the model. I bought this off secondary market for $150. So I didn't ask any questions. I saw it. It's pretty. I was like, yes, I want that. This is the Walter Wells unnamed custom, I guess. But somebody in the comment section will by all means let me know what it is, and I will pin their comment. But this is a beautiful, badass little knife. Weighs pretty much nothing, which is crazy because it has copper back here, copper back here. Copper is heavy normally. But Walter did some straight magic on this knife, and it is just absolute and true and genuine butter. You can middle finger flick it, no problem. Thumb finger flick it. Front flick it. Like, it does everything perfectly. It does drop down, no problems. The ergonomics for my size 2XL hands are a little bit tight, but not bad at all. Like, you know, it's a little bit cramped, but it's not bad. Overall, I love this knife. And I've also pried with this knife. I've used this knife. I've abused this knife, and it still held up fantastically. So Walter Wells, custom, unnamed, good to go. Now, next up is actually one that I thought I would hate this knife. I actually got this knife for my girlfriend at the time, and she didn't really like it. It was a little too big for her. It's too small for me, but I just love that it exists. This is the Protech Magic. So this thing has this little bolster thing right here that you just slide over. Can't do it. Just like that, you just slide over. And it deploys. This is also in the rose gold finish, right? And just a strange thing about this knife, if you scratch this actual finish on the actual black, as you can see right here, the rose gold like shines through. So it's like the whole knife is just rose gold coated. So if you actually like scratch the black aluminum coat, there's like rose gold underneath, which I don't know why they would do that, but I love it. Because of that, I intentionally scratch this knife all the time. Like so. When I look at that knife next, there's going to be a nice streak of rose gold, and it's going to be badass. I love that knife. Obviously, I'm not nice to it. It's definitely a user. It's an abuser, and it's held up fantastically. Next up is where we're getting in the weeds already, because this is the Something Obscene Company J-Cape, and this is a knife that is honestly worth the hype by a mile. People love this knife, right? And normally hype is that double-edged sword, that nice dagger, to where you might love it, but also might bite the fuck out of you at the same goddamn time. In my opinion, to be clear, only in my opinion, this knife, the Something Obscene Co. J-Cape, is 100% worth the hype. I love this knife. I've owned, God, like 7 or 8 of them over the years, both the flippers, the thumb studs. But when this one came out with this 20 CV DLC blade, this is made by Riot. This very subtle flame ionization on the actual scales. I fell in love, and I sold all the other ones, and I regret nothing. I love this damn knife. They're a little hard to come by. The drops come every few months. They're sold out in minutes, normally speaking. But if you can get one, get one. They are great. They are worth the hype. And look at the sound, or listen to the sound. Nothing quite sounds like a J-Cape. Just has that nice ting. Love it. So next up is a knife so nice I bought it twice. This is the also Maxace Knives Golith. This thing is a freaking beast. I have one in Zircuti that I bought from Love Them Knives, and I have one in this burlap micarta, or micarta in general. I don't think it's burlap. In this brown micarta and titanium bolster. That's absolutely badass. I am not a fan of flippers, to be clear. However, these knives, these big badass knives, flip out wonderfully. Let me go ahead and pull up. Everybody says the Benjamin Crooked River, right? The Crooked River is a big knife. You know, this is a lot bigger than the actual full-size Crooked River. It's badass. I love it. I don't normally buy 2 knives, man, but I saw this one, had to have it, saw this one, had to have it, and I'm not selling either. I love these things. Also, I look crazy as fuck on camera right now. So, that is the Maxace Knives Golith. Now, next up is, honestly, one of those knives that I chased for a long, long time. It was a true and genuine grail. I stalked people for this fucking knife, right? So this is the Strider Knives SMF. To be in particular, it is a one in full tie. That is nice and blacked out. Very, very cool with a tiger striped blade. Fantastic action. It does drop shut. It does middle finger flick out just fine. The thumb flick is a little tighter, but definitely does slow roll fantastically. You can't thumb flick it to be very clear. You have to use a little bit of wrist. But this is a knife that I tracked down. This was not my original knife, right? So I saw this knife in a picture and I loved it. I messaged the guy immediately. I was like, hey, what will it take for you to sell that knife? He's like, bro, I'm sorry. It's an old picture. I already sold it. All right. Do you know who you sold it to? To which he told me that. I messaged that guy who also sold it. I asked that guy as well if he would tell me who it was. He said no. So I literally lurked down his post. I found out who he actually sold it to. I messaged like 7 guys to actually find out who it actually was. That person then also sold it. And this went on for months. I literally was stalking this knife, hiding out in the bushes with fucking binoculars, just like creeping, trying to get this damn thing in hand. And over months, when I had almost just lost complete and utter hope, I saw it again. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to message one more time, just one more time. If this does not work out, it's not meant to be. I'm going to just let it go. But it was meant to be. We made a really, really good trade and a cash offer on top of that. And I got my baby in hand, and I fucking love this knife. This is probably one of the more crazier knife stories I have as far as just really going out of my way to get a knife. But I love this thing. And the only reason why it's not number one is because I've had it for a while now. I've loved it for a while now. And some of that luster is starting to fade, but it is still definitely not going to be sold. Now, next up is a knife that I think is good, unmodified, right? But modified, especially by the master himself, Steve Kyle. Whew. The Spyderco Knives Kapara is a absolute gem, grail, whatever you want to call it. This is not a particularly expensive knife. This is also the sprint run by, I believe it was DLT and 20CV. So instead of having the S30VN or S30VN, S30V, can't talk. This is in 20CV. This has actually been used. You can tell by the little scratch marks, little use marks on it. This thing is an absolute beast. I love the way this knife cuts. Now, I also have pretty damn large hands, as you guys know. So the scales on this one are a little bit thicker, means it had to have kind of like a strange little add-on for the clip. I don't fully love that, but it's a pretty small nitpick. And now it fits my hands really, really well. I freaking love the Kapara, but like this, modified by Mr. Steve Kyle to be that kind of like old school, traditional, kind of like a trapper feel to it with the bolster and everything else. Man, I love this knife. I've gotten many offers to sell this knife for way more than I put into it. I've turned them down flat. I always will. This thing is my baby. Now, next up is, actually, we're going to go one more. For this one, we are just, and I mean we are just under that $500 price point. To be clear, this one is over $500 because it's a limited edition, one of one and CPM 3V. However, you can get the Viking itself for around $399 to $400 usually. This is a big, gigantic ass knife. Let's go ahead and put up the Golith size comparison. So the Golith is a monster of a knife. This knife is even bigger still. Are you guys noticing a pattern yet? Am I overcompensating for something? Possibly. Who the hell knows? But either way, I like big ass knives. And this thing fits my fat hands so well. Ergonomically, this thing is an absolute home run. I freaking love this knife. But if that's too big for you, guess what? We also got the little Viking. The little Viking for me is a little bit too small, but I'm just happy it exists. So it is essentially speaking the same thing as the large Viking. This is a one of one off. Can't talk. One of one off, I guess. So if you want to get the actual Viking itself, you'll get something that looks pretty much exactly like this. So be it the full size Viking or the mini, you get this. Absolutely beautiful knife. Fantastic. I mean, absolutely fantastic edge geometry, fit and finishes through the roof. I freaking love this knife from Midgards Messer. Now, last but not least is a knife that I really feel like slipped under most people's radar, right? It was kind of limited. They're still around, to be clear, because they didn't sell out. Like, they're still around. You can find them. It's supposed to be like, I think like 40 of them or 60 of them per like run, but like You can still find some of them out there. And that is the Bestech Knives Togatta, or as I always call it, the Togatta Have That. I have owned 3 of these knives. I've sold 2 of them because I think I have what I would consider to be the perfect version of it. Now this is in this black and white G10 that I really, really, really freaking like. It is very, very smooth, adds a little bit of fullness to the actual handle itself, so it fits my fat hands very, very well. Fantastic ergonomics. I have been using this knife almost nonstop, man. I carry this knife almost every single day. If I'm not doing a review for a knife, this is in my pocket. And if I am, chances are this is still in my pocket, just on like the side pocket that I say I won't use, but I still end up using it anyways. Great edge geometry, not the best for paper, but for cardboard or actual work, fantastic. Got this beautiful actual Tonto right here, nice 2-tone blade finish. Drops down like an absolute guillotine, flicks out. No issues, man. I have literally never failed deployment on this knife. Let's test that theory right now. Maybe I'm gonna fuck them on camera. We'll do one more. Oh, still good. Love this thing. It is my absolute, I'm not gonna say my favorite knife. I'm not gonna say that, but I love this thing. It will not be sold. I love it. I love it. I love it. I loved it when I first got it in hand. As soon as I got it, man, as soon as I got it, I just knew. I was like, what the hell is this? Flicked it open, held it, and I was just like, oh, yes, 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 yes. And over a year later, I am still like, yes, yes, yes. I freaking love the Bestech Knives Togatta. And this is by far the knife that makes me the happiest, at least under that $500 price point. This knife was almost not in this video, right? Because I could not find it. It was in my goddamn pocket. I tore apart my house, messed up my whole collection, moved shit around, and I was like, where is it at? I'll have to do the knife without it. And I freaking sat down, laid everything out, and then touched my, and like put my hands down, felt the clip. I was like, oh shit. Because it's always on me, folks. It's just always on me. I love this freaking knife. And if you can find one, I highly, highly recommend it. It is a Cohen's design, and Cohen's almost always, in my humble opinion, knocks it out of the park. And this thing is no exception. Chinese made, yes, but I don't even care. The Bestech Knives Togatta, or the Togatta Have That, makes me happy. I want you to comment below, what are some knives that make you happy? If you can do a full list of 10, fantastic. If not, what are just some knives that make you happy? In the comment section, let's be positive, man. No shitting on makers, nothing like that. Let's just speak about knives that make you happy, things that make you smile, things that when you're in a bad fucking mood, you pick it up and you're like, that's backwards. You pick it up, you're just like, man, yes. For me, definitely this Bestech, but all of these as well, do that as well for me as well. Next video is going to be the over $500 price point knives that make me happy. Then I might drop it down to $100 price point. Might even go lower than that because there is honestly some fantastic budget knives out there. Once upon a time, I would never ever say that, but now, man, some of these companies are killing it for like rock bottom dollar prices. But as always, folks, I love you all. Please take care and bye-bye.